Your body is lying down, but your mind is still holding meetings. You rehearse conversations that have not happened. You predict losses that have not occurred. You place tomorrow on trial, summon every possible disaster as a witness, and then wonder why you wake up exhausted. Someone needs to hear this. You are not tired only because you have been working. You may be tired because you have been trying to govern everything. Think about it. If worry is proof that you are responsible, why does it consume so much energy while producing so little wisdom? Why does it keep you awake without showing you what to do? Why does it repeat the same question without bringing a new answer? That is not preparation. That is mental occupation without authority. Now, I am not telling you that your problems are imaginary. The bill is real. The medical report is real. The tension in your family is real. The deadline is real. The decision before you may carry serious consequences. Faith does not require you to deny facts, but facts must not be permitted to appoint fear as king. Here is the deeper problem. Your heart has accepted responsibility for more than your conduct. It has accepted responsibility for the timing, the response of other people, the future supply, the open door, the closed door, and every possible outcome. You are not merely asking, what should I do? You are trying to guarantee what happens after you do it. That is where responsibility becomes a throne. But here is the truth. Peace begins when responsibility returns to its proper jurisdiction. God remains sovereign. You receive stewardship. Imagined control must be released. You are responsible for obedience, not omniscience. You are responsible for preparation, not total prediction. You are responsible for your words, your habits, your choices, and your next faithful step. But you were never authorized to control another person's heart, command tomorrow's timing, or carry the government of the universe upon your shoulders. So pause for a moment, unclench your hands, lower your shoulders, breathe in slowly, and let it out. Your anxiety is not proof that you lack faith. Your exhaustion may be evidence that you have been carrying authority that was never delegated to you. Say this quietly. I will manage what has been entrusted to me, and I will release what I was never authorized to control. Did you catch that? Manage what has been entrusted. Release what has not been authorized. That is not irresponsibility. That is order. That is not quitting. That is surrendering false government so rightful government can restore peace. And if responsibility is going to return to its proper place, then we must understand how order, authority, and delegation actually function within a kingdom. A kingdom is not built on moods. It is built on order. There is a sovereign, there is territory, there are standards, there are citizens, and with citizenship come both rights and responsibilities. Government tells you who has authority, where that authority operates, and what each person is accountable to do. Why is that important? Because confusion thrives where roles are undefined. Psalm 24 declares that the earth and everything in it belong to the Lord. That means God is the owner. We are stewards. We possess things for a season, but we manage them on behalf of the one from whom they came. Your time, your abilities, your opportunities, your resources, even the breath in your body, these are trusts before they are possessions. And stewardship is real authority. Do not misunderstand surrender as insignificance. God gives human beings genuine work to do. He assigns territory. He entrusts decisions. He expects cultivation, discipline, protection, and faithful action. But delegation is not abdication. When a king delegates authority, the king does not cease to be sovereign. The representative receives permission to act within an assignment, but the source of authority remains above the representative. You have responsibility, but you do not have total control. You have an assignment, but you do not own the universe in which that assignment unfolds. Let us bring this closer to home. You can govern your attention, but you cannot govern every message that reaches you. You can govern your habits, but you cannot govern the entire economy. You can prepare carefully, speak truthfully, spend wisely, and behave honorably, but you cannot control another person's will. You can make plans for tomorrow, but you cannot command tomorrow to obey your plans. Did you catch that? Your authority is meaningful, but it is bounded. Anxiety grows when those boundaries collapse, when the steward tries to become the owner, when the representative tries to become the sovereign, when one citizen assumes responsibility for the whole government. That is why some people feel guilty while resting. They believe everything will collapse if they stop holding it together. But if everything depends upon your constant control, you are no longer practicing stewardship. You are attempting sovereignty. Kingdom confidence is different. It does not say, I control everything. It says, I know what I have been assigned. I know who assigned it, and I will act faithfully beneath his authority. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. And this order must begin within you. Before kingdom influence appears around you, kingdom government must settle your mind, discipline your speech, direct your choices, and establish boundaries in your heart. The first territory you must govern is your response. Say it aloud. I will govern what was entrusted to me, but I will not pretend to own what belongs to God. Peace is not the power to control everything. Peace is order within the territory actually entrusted to you. Now that the structure is clear, we must separate two experiences that often look alike but produce very different fruit: responsible concern and anxious control. Responsible concern and anxious control may begin with the same problem, but they do not produce the same response. Responsible concern sees clearly. It gathers facts. It prays for wisdom. It seeks counsel. It prepares carefully, then takes the next available step. Concern moves toward obedience. Anxiety moves in circles. It returns to the same possibility again and again, hoping that one more hour of thought will manufacture certainty. But no new fact appears. No new instruction emerges. No useful decision is made. The mind is busy, yet the life remains still. Concern asks, what can I do now? Anxiety demands, how can I know everything that will happen later? Concern prepares. Anxiety predicts. Concern can pause after fulfilling its duty. Anxiety interprets every pause as danger. Consider financial pressure. Responsible concern faces the numbers, reduces unnecessary spending, makes a budget, seeks advice, and begins an honest conversation with those affected. Those actions may not solve everything immediately, but they bring the situation under faithful stewardship. Anxious control does something different. After the budget is written, the call is made, and every responsible step available today has been taken, it continues calculating disaster at 2 a.m. It imagines losing the house, disappointing the family, missing the opportunity, and never recovering. Did that additional fear create provision? No. Did it reveal a new responsibility? No. It only demanded that the mind keep working after the assignment had ended. Every act of stewardship has a boundary. You gather the information. You receive sound counsel. You identify what obedience requires. You act with diligence. Then, when there is nothing further to do today, you stop. Stopping is not always negligence. Sometimes stopping is submission. But we must also confront the opposite mistake. Some people call avoidance faith. They refuse to examine the account, make the appointment, return the call, apologize, create the plan, or set the boundary. Then they say, I am trusting God. No. Trust does not cancel responsibility. Trust releases the outcome after responsibility has been honored. Faithful stewardship does not hide from facts, and faithful surrender does not try to control the future. One acts without pretending to be sovereign. The other rests without pretending there is nothing to do. So when worry returns, ask 4 questions. Is this thought showing me a new action? Is that action truly mine to take? Can I take it today? Or have I continued thinking after the useful information has ended? If the thought reveals a responsibility, obey. Make the call. Write the plan. Ask for help. Correct the mistake. Take the step. If the thought reveals no new duty, release it. Do not keep paying mental wages to a thought that performs no useful work. Say this aloud. I will act when action is assigned, and I will stop when my assignment is complete. Concern accepts an assignment. Anxiety appoints itself to an office it cannot fulfill. But repetitive worry does not rule by itself. It gains authority through the voices we permit to interpret our circumstances, and those voices are continually competing to define reality within the heart. The struggle inside you is not merely a struggle between thoughts. It is a struggle between governments. Every voice is seeking authority. Every voice is offering an interpretation, and the interpretation you accept will eventually shape the culture of your life. What governs your mind will influence your mouth. What governs your mouth will influence your habits. What governs your habits will influence your decisions, your relationships, and your direction. The first voice is fear. Fear takes a possibility and announces it as a certainty. It says, this could go wrong, and then quickly declares, this will go wrong. Fear treats missing information as evidence of disaster. It demands that you act immediately, even when wisdom is telling you to wait. Fear does not simply warn you, it tries to govern you. The second voice is scarcity. Scarcity says there will never be enough, never enough time, money, opportunity, help, favor, or room for recovery. Its commands are always the same. Hurry, hoard, compare, compete, and never stop. Scarcity tells you that rest is dangerous because someone else may get ahead. It tells you that generosity is foolish because tomorrow may leave you empty. It makes abundance invisible even when provision is already present. The third voice is social pressure. This voice takes the expectations of other people and turns them into law. It says approval is identity, visibility is value, and disappointing someone is failure. Under its government, every boundary feels selfish, and every no feels threatening. You begin performing instead of living. You accept responsibilities you were never assigned. You exhaust yourself trying to maintain an image that other people may not even require. But there is another voice, divine truth. Truth says the Father knows what you need. The King has not abandoned his government. You are not a stranger competing for attention. You belong. You are not required to understand the entire future before obeying in the present. Wisdom is available. Responsibility is defined. Grace is present. Now, renewal does not mean denying the problem. The debt may remain. The diagnosis may still require treatment. The relationship may still need a difficult conversation. But the existence of a problem does not give fear the right to interpret it. Did you catch that? Facts may describe your condition, but fear must not dictate your conclusion. Each voice creates a culture. Fear creates frantic speech and scattered action. Scarcity creates possessiveness and haste. Social pressure creates performance and resentment. Truth creates clarity, restraint, courage, and service. So let us conduct an audit. What sentence do you repeat most often when no one else is listening? I am going to lose everything. There will never be enough. If I disappoint them, I will have no value. Now ask, which government produced that sentence? Do not merely silence it. Replace it with truth connected to responsibility. I do not know every outcome, but I know my next faithful step. I cannot create endless supply, but I can manage today's resources wisely. I cannot control their response, but I can speak truth with love. Say this aloud. Fear will not set my pace. Scarcity will not set my pace. Approval will not set my pace. Truth will govern my response. The voice you obey will set the pace you live. And once you identify which voice has been ruling, you can bring every burden before one clear test. What belongs to God? What belongs to your stewardship? And what must finally be released? Jurisdiction is the lawful boundary of authority. It tells you where your responsibility begins, where it ends, and where another authority must act. Many anxious people keep asking, how can I solve this? But the first question should be, whose responsibility is this? That question brings order. There are three categories into which every burden must be placed. First, there is what God governs. God governs final outcomes. He governs timing beyond your reach, provision you cannot manufacture, doors you cannot force, conditions you cannot see, and the freedom of other people to make their own decisions. You may influence these matters, pray about them, and prepare for them, but you cannot become sovereign over them. Second, there is what you must steward. You must steward your motives, your preparation, your speech, your boundaries, your habits, and your resources. You must ask for help when help is needed. You must obey what is clear. You must take the next available decision with wisdom and integrity. Third, there is what you must release. Release imagined futures. Release responsibility for keeping everyone happy. Release the attempt to force the right result at the wrong time. Release the demand to be approved by every person. and release the mental labor that continues after faithful action is complete. Let us make this practical. Suppose you are waiting for an answer about a job. The final decision belongs beyond you. Your stewardship is to prepare, follow up appropriately, and remain faithful where you are. What must you release? Rehearsing rejection, trying to decode every silence, and believing your future depends upon one person's response. Suppose you face financial pressure. Complete provision is not yours to command. Your stewardship is to face the numbers, reduce waste, seek counsel, work diligently, and communicate honestly. What must you release? The catastrophic future your mind keeps presenting as fact. Suppose a relationship is strained. You cannot control another heart. Your stewardship is to speak truthfully, listen humbly, apologize where necessary, and establish healthy boundaries. What must you release? The belief that perfect words can guarantee their reaction. Did you catch the pattern? God governs the outcome. You steward the assignment. Fear receives no authority. And release is rarely a single emotional moment. The mind may return tomorrow and try to reopen the same case. When it does, surrender again. Refuse to reclaim an office you already admitted was never yours. Mature authority begins with self-government. It is not controlling another person. It is governing your response beneath God's authority. You may not command the outcome, but you can choose truth over panic, obedience over avoidance, and restraint over reaction. Bring one burden to mind now. Divide it properly and say aloud, "This outcome belongs to God. This next action belongs to me. This excess weight does not belong in my hands." That is jurisdiction. That is order. That is how peace returns without responsibility disappearing. The test identifies the roles, but Matthew 6 now gives us the priority that keeps those roles from becoming confused again. Matthew 6 speaks directly to the ordinary pressures that occupy the human heart. What you will eat, what you will drink, what you will wear, and what tomorrow may bring. Jesus does not mock those needs. He exposes the disorder that begins when need becomes the ruler of attention. When survival sits on the throne, everything becomes urgent. Every delay feels dangerous. Every closed door feels final. Every uncertain tomorrow feels like a personal failure to control today. But Jesus gives a command that restores government. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Notice the word first. This is a command about priority. It means that before your heart organizes itself around acquisition, fear, comparison, and survival, it must come beneath the rule of the King. Seek his will. Seek his order. Seek his standards. Seek the right position before chasing the desired possession. This is not a transaction. You do not seek God as a technique for persuading him to finance every appetite. You do not perform religious activity so that heaven will owe you comfort. Seeking first is not manipulation. It is alignment. It brings your desires, decisions, methods, and conduct under rightful authority. Your role is to seek. Seeking means learning, asking, listening, planning, obeying, and acting upon what is right. God's role is to add according to his wisdom. He governs the timing, the provision, the relationships, the opportunities, and the orchestration you cannot see. Did you catch that? Seeking is participation. Adding is sovereignty. Anxiety appears when those roles are reversed. You neglect alignment while trying to manufacture every addition. You try to create favor, force open doors, guarantee relationships, control timing, and secure outcomes no human effort can promise. Then you become exhausted, not because diligence is wrong, but because you are performing the work of both citizen and king. But you are not a stranger trying to attract God's notice. You are not a customer demanding benefits without responsibility. You approach him as a citizen who belongs and as a child whose father already knows what is needed. That identity changes your pace. Strangers panic for access. Children live from relationship. Consumers ask only, "What can I receive?" Citizens also ask, "How must I live?" So make seeking first visible in your schedule. Before the messages, before the headlines, before the demands of other people, establish the emotional climate of your day. Make room for truth. Pray, listen, reflect, review your purpose, examine your motives. Ask, what does obedience require of me today? Whatever receives your first attention is being invited to influence your government. Say this aloud: my duty is faithful seeking. The final edition is not mine to manufacture. Seek first does not remove responsibility. It puts responsibility in order. It releases false control and directs you toward faithful action. Now that the priority is clear, it must become a sustainable way of praying, planning, working, setting limits, and resting in the middle of real responsibility. Diligence and drivenness may look alike from a distance. Both can wake early, work late, and pursue excellence. But they are governed by different sources. Diligence is directed by purpose. Drivenness is pressured by fear. Diligence can stop when the day's assignment is complete. Drivenness keeps moving because stopping feels like losing value. One works from a settled identity. The other works to prove an identity. Prayer is where this difference becomes visible. Prayer is not panic dressed in religious language. It is not an attempt to overwhelm heaven with emotion. Prayer places the burden beneath higher authority, asks for wisdom, receives direction, and prepares the heart to obey. You do not pray to avoid action. You pray so that action can become aligned. Planning works the same way. A plan is stewardship, not prophecy. It organizes the facts, time, and resources available to you now. But a wise plan remains humble. It can adjust when new information appears, when timing changes, or when the assignment becomes clearer. An anxious plan says everything must happen exactly this way. A faithful plan says, this is my wisest course with what I know, but the king may redirect me. Then come boundaries. Some of you are exhausted because you keep saying yes to demands that were never part of your assignment. But a truthful no is not always rejection. Sometimes it is protection for a more important yes. Protect your integrity. Protect your health. Protect your family. Protect the time required for prayer, preparation, and rest. If an opportunity requires you to betray what you were commanded to preserve, it may be profitable, but it is not rightly ordered. Delegation also exposes drivenness. The belief that no one else can help, that everything must pass through you, or that the mission will fail without your constant involvement may sound committed, but it can conceal the fantasy of indispensability. Sharing appropriate responsibility is not abandonment. It is ordered multiplication. You remain accountable for your assignment without pretending you were designed to perform every function. And then you must rest. Rest is scheduled trust. You stop not because every task has vanished, but because your life is governed by more than your productivity. God established rest as part of order, not as an emergency treatment after collapse. But do not confuse rest with numbness. Endless scrolling, compulsive entertainment, and constant distraction may quiet your hands while leaving your heart agitated. Restoration does more. It allows the body to stop, the mind to receive truth, relationships to be renewed, and perspective to return. Before accepting another commitment, ask, is this truly assigned? Is it consistent with the king's standards? Will it violate an essential responsibility or truthful limit? Can I pursue it without allowing fear to become the fuel? Did you catch that? Excellence is wholehearted, but it is also bounded. Work faithfully, plan humbly, delegate wisely, rest deliberately, finish honestly. Refuse to make productivity the source of your security. Say it aloud. I can work without worshiping work, and I can rest without abandoning responsibility. These principles will change your life only when they become a repeatable rhythm practiced before anxiety seizes the day, not merely remembered after it has taken control. Peace must become more than something you feel during a message. It must become a rhythm you practice when the message is over. This rhythm will not remove every problem from your day. It will train you to restore order whenever fear attempts to seize authority. Begin in the morning, before the world begins making demands. Sit in silence for a moment, breathe slowly, read a short passage of truth, and ask one governing question. What has actually been entrusted to me today? Not next month, not every possible emergency. Today. Take a page and divide it into 3 columns. In the first, write what God governs. In the second, write what you must steward. In the third, write what you release. The outcome of the meeting may belong in the first column. Honest preparation belongs in the second. Rehearsing humiliation belongs in the third. Then identify one primary act of obedience. Schedule it before optional activity consumes your attention. If the call must be made, schedule the call. If the truth must be spoken, prepare the conversation. If counsel is needed, request it. Give obedience a place on the calendar. Then at midday, pause again. Pressure has a way of changing governments while you are busy. Fear enters through one message. Scarcity enters through one delay. Social pressure enters through one disappointed reaction. So stop and ask, which voice is setting my pace right now? Separate facts from predictions. The fact may be that an answer has not arrived. The prediction says it will never arrive. The fact may be that you made an error. The prediction says your future is ruined. Did you catch that? Facts may require action. Predictions often demand panic. Ask whether the thought contains a new responsibility or merely repeats uncertainty. If there is an action, take the smallest faithful step. Send the message. Review the plan. Correct the mistake. Ask for wisdom. Establish the boundary. And if no action is assigned, choose to wait without manufacturing one. In the evening, review your stewardship without condemning yourself. What did you obey? What needs correction? What remains unfinished? What are you attempting to carry into the night? Prepare what can responsibly be prepared for tomorrow. Then establish a stopping point. Close the notebook. End the work. Release the unresolved outcome in prayer. Sleep is not carelessness. Sometimes sleep is your confession that the government of God continues while your hands are still. And once each week, step back further. Protect a period of genuine restoration. Examine your commitments. Delegate what should be shared. Reconnect with the people your busyness has neglected. Remove activities sustained mainly by fear, image, or the inability to say no. This is how peace becomes practiced order. Use this sentence whenever anxiety returns. Truth over prediction. Obedience over control. Ordered rest over frantic proof. Morning, restore jurisdiction. Midday, correct the governing voice. Evening, release the unfinished burden. Weekly, reorder the life you are building. You do not need to wait for anxiety to disappear before living faithfully. You need a rhythm that repeatedly returns anxiety to its proper place. Now the final movement gathers everything: diagnosis, identity, jurisdiction, action, and rest into one decisive act of release and recommitment. We began with an exhausted mind, holding meetings that never adjourned, rehearsing conversations, predicting losses, and placing tomorrow on trial. But now the agenda has changed. Not every thought deserves a hearing. Not every possibility deserves agreement. Not every outcome belongs in your hands. Worry becomes false government when it reaches beyond stewardship. Rightful order returns when you recognize three things. God governs what only God can govern. You steward what has actually been assigned. And every unauthorized burden must be released. Now, bring one specific anxiety to mind. Do not hide behind a general response. Name the decision, the relationship, the financial pressure, the medical concern, the unanswered question, or the future you have been trying to secure. Pause. Breathe in slowly, let it out. Open your hands. You cannot release what you are still determined to grip. Now name the outcome you have treated as though your constant attention could guarantee it. Admit it without shame. You were trying to be responsible, but responsibility became control, and control became a throne. It is time to leave that throne. Say this aloud. God governs what I cannot control. I will steward what He has entrusted. I release what was never mine to carry. Again, God governs what I cannot control. I will steward what He has entrusted. I release what was never mine to carry. Now, surrender must become obedience. What is one concrete action you can take within the next 24 hours? Make the appointment. Send the message. Review the account. Ask for counsel. Apologize. Establish the boundary. Complete the preparation. Or, if no action is assigned, stop interfering with the silence and wait faithfully. Release is not passivity. Release clears your hands for obedience. And if the anxious thought returns, do not condemn yourself. Returning thoughts do not prove that surrender failed. They give you another opportunity to restore jurisdiction, Ask again, what does God govern? What must I steward? What must I release? Let us pray. Father, you know what we need before we can explain it. You see every condition, every hidden factor, and every tomorrow beyond our reach. You are King, and your authority has not weakened. Thank you that we do not approach you as strangers. We belong to your household and live under your care. Give us wisdom to recognize our assignments, courage to obey what is clear, humility to seek help, and discipline to govern our responses. Forgive us for trying to control what you never delegated. We release timing, outcomes, approval, provision, and the choices of others into your hands. Teach us to work without fear, to plan without pretending to know everything, and to stop when today's assignment is complete. Let peace guard our hearts as order is restored. Amen. Now go forward quietly. Do not attempt to govern the entire future. Govern today's response beneath the King. Take the next faithful step. Release the outcome, and let peace become the evidence that every responsibility is returning to its rightful place.